Plato and Aristotle are two of the most famous philosophers in history. Their ideas and writings have shaped Western thought for centuries. While both men lived in ancient Greece and studied many of the same topics, such as ethics, politics, and metaphysics, their approaches to these subjects were often very different. Plato focused on abstract ideas and the world of forms, believing that ultimate truth lies beyond what we can see or touch. Aristotle, on the other hand, was more practical and scientific, emphasizing observation and the study of the natural world. Understanding their similarities and differences helps us appreciate how their philosophies continue to influence modern thinking. Let's look at Plato first. Plato was a philosopher who lived in Athens during the 4th and 5th centuries BCE. He was a student of Socrates, another famous philosopher, and much of Plato's work was influenced by Socratic teachings. Plato founded a school called the Academy, which is considered one of the earliest institutions of higher learning in the Western world. One of Plato's most famous ideas is the theory of forms. According to this theory, everything we see in the physical world is an imperfect copy of a perfect, unchanging idea or form that exists in a higher, spiritual realm. For example, a tree we see in real life is just a shadow of the ideal form of treeness. Plato's most famous writings are his dialogues, which are presented as conversations between Socrates and other characters. Through these dialogues, Plato explored topics like justice, virtue, and the ideal society. His book, The Republic, outlines his vision of a perfect society, where philosopher kings rule because they have the wisdom to govern justly. Plato believed that reason and rational thought were the keys to understanding truth and achieving a good life. Now let's have a look at Aristotle. Aristotle was a philosopher who lived in the 4th century BCE and was a student of Plato. He studied at Plato's Academy for many years, but eventually developed his own ideas that differed significantly from his teachers. Aristotle later founded his own school called the Lyceum, where he taught a wide range of subjects, including biology, ethics, politics, and logic. Unlike Plato, who focused on abstract forms, Aristotle believed that knowledge comes from observing the natural world. He emphasized the importance of studying things as they are and using evidence to reach conclusions. One of Aristotle's major contributions was the development of formal logic. He created a system of reasoning that helps people draw valid conclusions from given premises. Aristotle also wrote extensively about ethics, arguing that the goal of life is to achieve happiness, which he called eudaimonia. According to Aristotle, this happiness comes from living a balanced and virtuous life. In politics, Aristotle studied different forms of government and concluded that a constitutional government, where laws are fairly applied, was the best system for most societies. Although Plato and Aristotle had many differences, they also shared some important similarities. Both philosophers were deeply interested in understanding the nature of reality and what it means to live a good life. They believed in the importance of education and spent their lives teaching and writing to share their ideas. Both men were also concerned with questions about ethics and morality, and they agreed that people should strive to be virtuous and rational. Another similarity is that both Plato and Aristotle made lasting contributions to political philosophy. They each wrote about the ideal way to govern society and considered the role of justice and fairness in politics. While their views on the best form of government differed, both agreed that leaders should be wise and virtuous to ensure the well-being of their citizens. Additionally, their work laid the foundation for many fields of study, from philosophy and science to literature and politics. Despite their shared interests, Plato and Aristotle had fundamentally different approaches to philosophy. Plato believed that the ultimate reality lies in the world of forms, which exists beyond our physical senses. He argued that the physical world is an imperfect reflection of these higher forms, and that true knowledge comes from contemplating these abstract ideas. Aristotle, in contrast, rejected the idea of a separate world of forms. He believed that reality is found in the physical world and that we can gain knowledge by studying it directly. For Aristotle, observation and evidence were essential to understanding the world. Another key difference is their views on politics and government. Plato's ideal society, as described in the Republic, was ruled by philosopher kings who had access to higher knowledge and were best suited to lead. He believed that most people were not capable of governing themselves because they lacked the wisdom to make good decisions. Aristotle, however, took a more practical approach. He studied existing governments and concluded that a constitutional government, which balances the interests of different groups, was the most stable and just system. Aristotle valued the input of ordinary citizens and believed that a good society should allow people to participate in governance. Finally, their methods of teaching and thinking were different. Plato used dialogues and abstract reasoning to explore philosophical questions, often focusing on ideal concepts. Aristotle, on the other hand, relied on observation, classification, and logical analysis. His work was more systematic and scientific, and he made significant contributions to the study of biology, physics, and other natural sciences. While Plato sought truth in the realm of ideas, Aristotle sought it in the physical world.